First strike. The sunrise over San Francisco Bay painted the sky in brilliant orange and pink hues as Commander Elena Voss jogged along the waterfront. At 42, with her dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that had seen too many conflicts, she still maintained the fitness regimen from her 20 years in the United Earth Defense Forces. The world had been at peace for almost a decade. The climate accords of 2053 had finally brought nations together after the resource wars nearly destroyed civilization. Elena paused to catch her breath, watching the light dance across the rebuilt skyline. Her comm device chirped with a message from UEDF headquarters. Probably another training exercise, she thought, pulling it from her pocket. The message was brief. Immediate return to base. QUD maximum read. She had never seen that code used outside of simulations. 10 minutes later, Elena sprinted through the secure entrance of the underground UEDF command center beneath the Presidio. General Marcus Chen stood before a wall of screens, his usually calm demeanor replaced with barely contained alarm. Voss, he acknowledged without turning. Look at this. The screens showed multiple objects in Earth's orbit, massive structures appearing through what looked like tears in space itself. 17 of them, distributed across strategic positions around the planet. First contact? Elena asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Not the kind we hoped for, Chen replied. They appeared 30 minutes ago. No warning, no communication. They've already disabled our orbital defense platforms and 6 major communication satellites. Military capabilities. Unknown, but clearly advanced. Our best ships couldn't make jumps like that. The general's eyes narrowed. We're gathering world leaders for an emergency session. I want you to. The building shuddered violently. Alarms blared as screens flickered with emergency reports. They've started hitting population centers. A young lieutenant called out, her voice cracking. New York, Beijing, London, Moscow. Simultaneous strikes. Before Elena could speak, the main screen switched to an incoming transmission. The face that appeared wasn't human. Greenish-gray skin stretched over a bone structure that seemed almost crystalline, with 4 glittering eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. People of Earth, the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice resonating with an unnatural harmonic. I am High Commander Xeric of the Xerith Collective. Your planet has been chosen for immediate resource extraction and strategic position acquisition. Surrender your military and governmental authorities now, and your population will be preserved as labor units. Resistance is. The alien's mouth formed what might have been a smile. Historically ineffective. The transmission cut off abruptly. General Chen turned to Elena, his face grim. Looks like retirement will have to wait, Commander Voss. I need you to take command of our Pacific Defense Forces. With all due respect, sir, if those ships can jump through space like that, what defense do we have? We fight anyway, Chen said firmly. Humanity doesn't surrender. That was the last conversation Elena had with General Chen. 3 hours later, the UEDF headquarters took a direct hit. Within 24 hours, every major military installation on Earth had been destroyed or occupied. The aliens, the Xeriths, had planned their assault meticulously. Humanity's most advanced weapons barely scratched their ships. Their troops, protected by energy fields that deflected bullets and explosives, methodically secured strategic locations. Within a week, most governments had collapsed or surrendered. But humans, as they had proven throughout their bloody history, were difficult to subjugate completely. 6 months after the invasion, Elena crouched in the ruins of what had once been Portland, Oregon. Her uniform was long gone, replaced by scavenged clothing and makeshift armor. A crude network of resistance fighters had formed across what remained of North America, and similar movements were reported worldwide. They're moving the processing equipment into the old convention center, reported Maya Kwan, a former software engineer who had become one of Elena's most reliable scouts. At 28, she had lost her entire family in the initial attack on San Francisco, but had channeled her grief into fierce determination. "How many guards?" Elena asked, studying the area through battered binoculars. 8 outside. Unknown number inside. The usual pattern. They don't expect much resistance anymore. Elena nodded grimly. Early attempts at fighting back had been met with brutal efficiency. For every Zereth soldier killed, they demolished an entire neighborhood. The resistance had learned to be more strategic, focusing on intelligence gathering and small-scale sabotage. "We're not hitting them directly," Elena said, putting away the binoculars. "Dr. Okafor thinks he's figured something out about their technology. We need one of their weapons intact." Maya's eyes widened. "That's suicide." "Maybe not." Elena pulled out a small device that looked like a modified cell phone. "Okafor says this might disrupt their energy fields. If it works, we could take them out silently." The plan was dangerous but simple. Intelligence had identified a small Zereth outpost in the ruins of Sacramento, where a high-ranking officer appeared to be stationed. With Okafor's devices, they might be able to neutralize the guards and capture the officer. Elena insisted on leading the mission herself. 3 days later, she and a team of 6 resistance fighters approached the outpost under cover of a rare thunderstorm. The Zereths seemed to dislike Earth's weather patterns, particularly electrical storms. The initial breach went exactly as planned. Okafor's devices disabled the perimeter guard shields, and Elena's team subdued them quickly. Inside, they found fewer Zereths than expected. Just 3, including the officer they sought. "Remember, we need this one alive," Elena reminded her team as they prepared to breach the inner room. The ensuing fight was brief but violent. 2 of Elena's team were injured, but they succeeded in capturing the Zereth officer. As they secured their prisoner, Maya called out from a console she had been examining. "Commander, you need to see this." On the screen was a star map, with Earth prominently marked. But it wasn't alone. 17 other worlds were highlighted, with data streaming beside each. "They're not just here," Maya said, her voice filled with horror. "Earth is just one of many. They're systematically harvesting planets across this entire sector." Elena stared at the display, the full scope of what they were facing finally becoming clear. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about stopping an interstellar predator that had been consuming worlds for what appeared to be centuries. As they escaped with their prisoner and the vital data, Elena's mind raced with implications. The Zereths had hit Earth first, thinking humanity would be an easy conquest. It was time to show them how wrong they were. Unexpected victory. The captured Zereth officer was secured in a reinforced chamber deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. For 3 days, it refused to communicate, its 4 eyes staring impassively at the humans who attempted to question it. Elena watched through a one-way mirror as Dr. Okafor tried various approaches. "We've analyzed the data from their outpost," Maya reported, joining Elena in the observation room. "It's worse than we thought. The Zereths aren't just invading. They're harvesting. They strip planets of specific resources, then use them as forward bases for further expansion." "And the native populations?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Utilized until no longer needed," Maya replied grimly. "The data shows 17 previous conquests. None of those species exist anymore." Elena's jaw tightened. "Then we have nothing to lose." On the 4th day, the Zereth finally spoke. Its name, translated as best as possible, was Karax IV, a sub-commander in what it called the Resource Acquisition Division of the Zereth Collective. "Your resistance is anomalous," it stated, its voice producing those strange harmonics that set human teeth on edge. Previous species accepted inevitability more readily. "Maybe they didn't have as much practice fighting for survival," Elena replied coldly. What followed was a careful dance of information exchange. The Zereth, perhaps believing Earth's defeat still inevitable, revealed more than it intended. The collective was vast, but not infinite. The invasion force sent to Earth represented a significant investment of resources, one of many concurrent operations across what humans would call the Orion arm of the galaxy. Most importantly, HFY confirmed what Okafor had suspected. The Zerith's advanced technology all operated on the same fundamental principle, manipulating something the alien called quantum phase resonance. "This is it," Okafor whispered excitedly to Elena after one particularly revealing session. "Their entire technological infrastructure is interconnected. If we can disrupt it on a large enough scale, then we could take down their entire invasion force at once," Elena finished. The scientist nodded eagerly. "But we'd need to hit their command ship. All their systems are networked through it. And that ship is in orbit, protected by their entire fleet," Elena pointed out. "Not necessarily," Maya interjected, bringing up the stolen data on her tablet. "Their ships follow a cycle. Every 42 days, they realign their network, some kind of maintenance procedure. During that period, the command ship descends to low orbit and becomes more vulnerable." Elena studied the data. "When's the next alignment?" 10 days from now. 10 days to prepare for humanity's most ambitious counterattack. 10 days to either save Earth or lose everything. The plan that emerged was audacious to the point of insanity. Using the Global Resistance Network, Elena coordinated simultaneous strikes on Zerith installations worldwide. These weren't meant to succeed. They were diversions, designed to draw attention and resources away from the main objective. That objective was the Zerith command ship, which would descend to low orbit over the Pacific Ocean during its maintenance cycle. A small team would launch from a hidden facility in the Aleutian Islands, using a modified pre-invasion spacecraft equipped with Okafor's disruption technology. "This is essentially a suicide mission," Elena told the volunteers bluntly. "Even if we succeed in disabling their systems, we'll be trapped on their ship with thousands of angry Zeriths." "With respect, Commander," replied Captain Sato, a former Japanese Air Force pilot who had volunteered to fly the mission. "It's a suicide mission for all of humanity if we don't try." Elena nodded. "I'll be leading the boarding party." The final preparations were made in tense silence. Dr. Okafor had created what he called a resonance cascade initiator, a device that, when connected to the Zerith command network, would trigger a system-wide failure across their entire technology platform. "Once activated, you'll have approximately 3 minutes to get clear," he explained. "The cascade will spread through their network, disabling everything from their weapons to their life support systems." "And if we don't get clear?" asked Rivera, a former Marine who had joined Elena's team. Okafor hesitated. "The feedback loop could potentially cause their power cores to destabilize." "In other words, a really big boom," Rivera translated. "Potentially, yes." On the day of the operation, resistance cells across the globe launched their diversionary attacks. Reports flooded in of Zerith forces being drawn away from their standard positions. Simultaneously, Elena's team prepared for launch from the hidden facility. Their craft, named Phoenix, was a pre-invasion orbital shuttle retrofitted with salvaged Zerith technology. It wouldn't win any beauty contests, but it had one crucial advantage. It would register as debris on Zerith sensors until it was too close to ignore. "Final checks complete," Captain Seto reported as Elena strapped into the co-pilot's seat. "We have a launch window in 3 minutes." Elena looked back at her team. 6 of humanity's best, possibly embarking on Earth's last hope. "Whatever happens," she told them, "remember they hit us first. We're just making sure they never hit anyone again." The launch went smoothly, Phoenix rising on columns of fire before transitioning to its modified Zerith propulsion system. As they approached orbital altitude, the massive Zerith command ship came into view, a behemoth of alien design, skeletal yet organic, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from end to end. "Zerith vessels are deploying from the southern hemisphere," Maya reported from the Resistance headquarters. "Your diversions are working." "Approaching optimal insertion point," Sato announced. 30 seconds. Elena took a deep breath. Activate stealth systems. The Phoenix went dark, drifting toward the command ship like a piece of space debris. On the Xerath vessel, maintenance ports were open, internal systems exposed during the realignment process. 20 seconds. 15. A warning light flashed on the console. They've spotted us, Sato said tensely. Too late to change course. Prepare for impact. The Phoenix crashed through an open maintenance port, metal screeching against metal as it tore into the Xerath ship. Emergency systems deployed, cushioning the impact for the human crew, but the shuttle was a total loss. Everyone out, Alina ordered, grabbing her equipment. Suit up and move. The boarding party donned their helmets. The interior of the Xerath ship maintained an atmosphere, but no one knew if it was breathable by humans. They moved quickly through twisted metal into the alien vessel's interior. The first Xerath soldiers they encountered were caught by surprise. Okafor's disruptors worked perfectly, shutting down their shields and weapons. The fight that followed was brief but brutal. Even without their technology, the aliens were formidable opponents. We need to find the central command node, Alina reminded her team as they secured the area. According to our intelligence, it should be near the center of the ship. They moved deeper into the vessel, encountering increasing resistance. The Xeraths had realized they were under attack and were responding accordingly. Twice, the team was nearly overwhelmed, saved only by their disruption devices and hard-won combat experience. This architecture doesn't match our intelligence, Rivera noted as they fought their way through a particularly challenging section. It's like they've reconfigured the entire interior. Adaptive design, suggested Dr. Okafor, who had insisted on joining the mission despite the risks. Their ships might be partially organic. After nearly an hour of fighting through the labyrinthine vessel, they found what they were looking for, a massive chamber filled with pulsing crystalline structures that could only be the command center. This is it, Okafor confirmed, scanning the area with a modified Xerath device. The resonance patterns match what we're looking for. But they weren't alone. A dozen Xerath soldiers guarded the chamber, led by a figure Alina recognized instantly from briefings. High Commander Xeric, the alien who had announced Earth's conquest nearly a year ago. Humans, the High Commander spoke, its voice carrying those unsettling harmonics. Your persistence is remarkable, if ultimately futile. We've disabled your troops across half the planet, Alina replied, buying time as her team spread out into defensive positions. Your ship is compromised. Surrender now, and we might let you leave Earth alive. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. You misunderstand your situation entirely. Earth is not unique. It is merely convenient. The collective has harvested 1,000 worlds before yours, and will harvest 1,000 more after. Not if we stop you here, Alina countered. You cannot stop the inevitable, Xeric said. Your species is resourceful, yes, but ultimately primitive. Even if you succeed today, the collective will simply send another fleet. Maybe, Alina acknowledged, but we'll be ready for them, and we'll make sure every other species in this galaxy knows how to fight back too. The alien's expression shifted subtly. Was that concern? You would share your knowledge with other worlds. That's what humans do, Alina said firmly. We learn, we adapt, and we help others do the same. For the first time, Xeric seemed uncertain. This is unprecedented. No species has ever. The hesitation was all Alina needed. She activated her disruptor at maximum power, targeting the High Commander directly. The alien's shields flickered and died. At the same moment, her team deployed their devices against the remaining guards. Chaos erupted in the command chamber. The Xeraths fought with desperate intensity, but without their technology, they were outnumbered and outmatched by the determined humans. Xeric fell back, reaching for what appeared to be an emergency control panel. This vessel will self-destruct before I allow its capture. Alina lunged forward, tackling the High Commander before it could activate the sequence. They struggled briefly, the alien's superior strength nearly overwhelming her, until Rivera joined the fight. helping to subdue the Xerath leader. Okafor. Elena called out, pinning Xerek's arms. The device. The scientist rushed to the central crystal matrix, connecting his resonance cascade initiator to what he had identified as the primary control node. The crystalline structures pulsed faster, changing color from blue to red. It's working, Okafor reported. The cascade has begun. We have 3 minutes before it reaches critical mass. Elena turned to Xerek, who had stopped struggling. Call off your forces. Order a full retreat from Earth's orbit. And if I refuse? The alien asked coldly. Then you die with us, Elena replied. Because we're not leaving this ship until your fleet abandons Earth. For a long moment, High Commander Xerek stared at Elena with its 4 glittering eyes. Then, surprisingly, it nodded. You have earned this victory, human. The collective has miscalculated. Using its communication device, Xerek gave the order. All Xerath forces were to withdraw immediately from Earth's orbit. On the monitors surrounding the command chamber, Elena and her team watched as Xerath ships began to disengage from their positions around the planet. 2 minutes remaining, Okafor warned. We need to evacuate now. There are escape pods near the outer hull, Xerek offered unexpectedly. They will survive the cascade effect. Elena hesitated, then nodded. Lead the way. The unlikely group, humans and their Xerath prisoner, raced through the corridors of the dying ship. All around them, systems were failing as the resonance cascade spread through the network. Other Xeraths they encountered were in disarray, fleeing toward escape pods of their own. 30 seconds, Okafor called out as they reached the pod bay. They piled into the nearest escape pod, Xerek providing the necessary access codes. The pod launched, putting distance between them and the command ship just as the cascade reached its climax. From the safety of their escape pod, Elena and her team watched as the massive Xerath command ship shuddered, energy discharges coursing across its surface. It didn't explode as they had feared. Instead, it simply went dark, all systems failing simultaneously. More importantly, the effect spread to the remaining Xerath vessels in orbit. One by one, their lights flickered and died, leaving them drifting helplessly in space. It worked. Maya's voice came through on their communication system. The cascade affected their entire fleet. They're retreating, Commander. The ships that can still move are leaving Earth's orbit. Elena turned to Xerek, who sat silently in the corner of the escape pod. Your collective will send others, she said. It wasn't a question. Perhaps, the alien replied. But not soon, and not without reconsideration. Reconsideration of what? Of how we classify potential conquest targets. Tarek explained. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that exceed our assessment parameters. The collective does not waste resources on high-risk acquisitions. So we scared you off, Rivera said with grim satisfaction. You altered the cost-benefit analysis, the alien corrected. And you presented a new variable, the sharing of defensive knowledge with other species. This would significantly complicate future harvesting operations. As their pod descended toward Earth, Elena looked out at the planet below, scared but intact, forever changed by the invasion, but still, undeniably, humanity's home. We'll be watching for your return, she told Xerek, and we'll be ready. Of that, the alien replied, I have no doubt. 1 year later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed International Space Defense Headquarters, watching as engineers integrated salvage Xerath technology into Earth's growing defense fleet. The aftermath of the invasion had transformed human society in ways no one could have predicted. Nations that had warred for centuries now worked together toward common defense. Scientists from former rival countries collaborated openly, sharing discoveries and innovations. The knowledge gained from studying Xerath technology had accelerated human development by decades, perhaps centuries. The Artemis is ready for its first test flight, Maya reported, joining Elena at the window. Now the head of Earth's new xenotechnology division, she had been instrumental in reverse engineering Xerath systems. The quantum drive should be capable of reaching Proxima Centauri in under a week. Elena nodded, watching as the sleek ship, humanity's first true interstellar vessel, prepared for launch. And the communication beacons, deployed throughout the solar system, Maya confirmed. If the Xeraths or any other hostile species approaches, we'll have advance warning. But they were doing more than just preparing defenses. Using information extracted from the Xerath databases, humanity had identified the locations of other worlds that had been targeted for harvesting. Diplomatic missions were already being planned, offering to share defensive technologies with other species who might face the same threat. We've come a long way in a short time, Elena observed. We had motivation, Maya replied with a faint smile. Nothing unites people like a common enemy. Elena watched as the Artemis lifted off, its engines glowing with the same energy that had once powered Xerath weapons. The ship rose gracefully into the sky, carrying humanity's hopes and ambitions toward the stars. The Xeraths had hit Earth first, believing humans would be an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, a species that throughout its bloody history had proven one thing above all else. When pushed to the brink, humans didn't just survive. They evolved, adapted, and emerged stronger than before. And now, with eyes open to the dangers and possibilities of the wider galaxy, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. Not as conquerors like the Xeraths, but as defenders ready to ensure that no species ever suffered as Earth had. They had hit Earth first, but humans had made sure they would never fight a war again. At least, not with humanity. And if they did return, Elena smiled grimly at the thought. They would find not the primitive species they had first encountered, but a united world with technology to match their own. Allies across the stars, and the determination that came from having faced extinction and refused to accept it. Because that's what humans did best. They survived, they fought back, and they made damn sure their enemies remembered the lesson.